Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 113-97 win against the Boston Celtics. Riker, the Raptors got their revenge after a tough, heartbreaking Christmas Day loss.
Ben, in every way possible, we outplayed the Boston Celtics tonight. If they didn't get those points that they did off of turnovers, Boston wouldn't have scored tonight, Ben. The defense was that good. The performance was that much better. We out-rebounded them. It was insane. We played a small ball lineup, which I've never seen before, and I loved it. There's a lot to break down in this one, Ben.
Yeah, certainly. And we gotta dive straight into this. And Nick Nurse, man, he comes back, he tries different stuff out, and obviously during Christmas Day, we all saw Enes Kanter absolutely dominate the Toronto Raptors inside when Chris Boucher, we don't really have a backup center right now with Marc Gasol out, so he made adjustments in this game which were just remarkable. He brought Boucher in really early in this one to match up against the Celtics smaller big men, and then when Kanter was in the game, he made sure to match him up with Ibaka, and on top of that too, Patrick McCaw, who really struggled in the last game, 43 minutes for McCaw tonight, but the biggest difference was he was the primary ball handler, and Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet were playing more so off the ball. It was really just the adjustments that he made in a two-game series, so to speak, against the Celtics. It's crazy what Nick Nurse can do with this roster.
There has been a bunch of defining coaching, legacy-defining moments for Nick Nurse in his short tenure as a Toronto Raptor head coach. And box and one, switching Kawhi onto Giannis in the playoffs, running various different lineups. But to me, this is my favorite that I've seen to date, Ben. We have a starting lineup with 2 point guards already, and then you slip them up to the 2 and the 3, and you let Patrick McCaw, who's barely touched the court all season long, he's been getting extra minutes here and there, let him run the point, and it worked beautifully, Ben. And Kyle Lowry gave him all the props at the end. He said, Patrick McCaw, he is a point guard. He believes in this league, and it's underrated, his playmaking ability and his ball handling, and obviously his tenacious defense. It's just, I thought that this lineup it took the Boston for a shock, and it ran really well.
Yeah, well, we gave Patrick McCaw the DeMar Carroll Gold Star Award, or I gave it to him in the last game, because there's certain points where Patrick McCaw doesn't really seem to impact the game. He kind of just floats around. It doesn't seem to really do anything, but he's pretty good at everything on the court, right? He's a good defender, he's a good passer, he's a good dribbler, he's a good shooter, but he doesn't do anything great. But when the ball's in his hands, he can do all those things. And tonight, 18 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, the jack of all trades, Patrick McCaw, he really put it all on display tonight.
Did it not just make him look more confident? Even in his corner threes, he just looked more confident. And it makes sense because Kyle Lowry, we know that he doesn't need to be the primary ball handler to be productive. Also, it's worth noting, if you watch the game tonight, you saw that Boston Celtics, this arena, TD Garden, it is his highest scoring facility or arena that over his career. So this is his best scoring place, believe it or not. And Fred VanVleet, he's also a terrific off-the-ball guy because he runs off screens really well. He loves those spot-up threes. So I think that this lineup makes a lot of sense because you're right. The person who's usually least engaged, being Patrick McCaw, now you give him the opportunity to warm up, create some opportunities. It ran really well. But Ben, tonight, even bigger surprise, a good Canadian boy, O'Shea Brissett. Where did that come from, Ben? That was the surprise performance of the season, perhaps.
I didn't realize how big this guy was because we saw him in preseason a little bit. He was an athlete who he shot a few threes on the preseason. I don't remember him hitting that many, but his size for a wing guy, for being that mobile, the way he just went after the rebounds and was able to guard the bigger players in the Boston Celtics, it was remarkable. And Nick Nurse, this is the first time, I think, from watching the games this season, he's gotten meaningful minutes for the Toronto Raptors. And as soon as he went out there, similar to what Rondae Hollis-Jefferson did when he got his opportunity, he was ready to just grind. He was getting rebounds. On the offensive end, he was going after all of the offensive rebounds, and Lowry was throwing lobs to him, and he did look a little bit uncomfortable for certain possessions. And he's a guy that's barely played in the NBA. This is his first stretch of meaningful minutes, but the defense, the energy, and the rebounding, the potential for this guy from just this small sample size really is encouraging for this Toronto Raptors team.
Yeah, I mean, his first possession out there, he gets the offensive rebound dunk, that putback dunk. The Yeah, it would have been an offensive rebound dunk. Then I love how Nick Nurse actually left them out in the second half for significant minutes as well. Of course, when the foul trouble came, then you're drawing at strings who you're going to play. But O'Shea Brissett, he played meaningful minutes in the third where the game was close, and he had 2 back-to-back offensive rebounds, both leading to points. One a three-point shot, and then one he tipped it to Terrence Davis. Not going to make that mistake with saying Terrence Ross again. Tipped it to him in the lane, and I mean, we're going to have a problem, Ben, at some point when we keep putting in our deep bench and they keep performing really well. When is it going to end?
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. And the fact that he has this size, too, for a wing player, because we saw Malcolm Miller get some run. He's also been great in some games that he's been thrown into the fire with. But with Marc Gasol out and Pascal Siakam out right now, because Brissett's a bigger guy and can get those rebounds, he'll probably be a guy to slide in now with all these current injuries that we currently have. So that's another guy for the Toronto Raptors stepping up, and that's just a remarkable thing to see. But, Ryker, we're deep into this podcast right now, and we haven't even brought up Kyle Lowry dropping 30 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, just splashing it all over the court on the Boston Celtics. And tonight he played off the ball. He was given a more scoring role and really ran away with it.
Well, it's great because, I mean, most of the facilitating is given to, anybody when they run a pick and roll. They'll just try to dump it off to Serge. So I don't mind.
Or Boucher,
Kyle
who's done a really good job.
Sorry?
Or Boucher, who's done a really good job at rolling to the rim.
Boucher has been one of the best players on the Toronto Raptors over this past stretch of basketball in terms of you look at his plus-minus and his efficiency. But I don't mind putting Kyle Lowry into that role because, let's face it, when the players that are out, you can even make the argument that Pascal Siakam has been quite off as of late when he's playing against good teams. Kyle Lowry, he's the last proven player on this team. Everybody else, they're working their way up to this point. This is the last veteran
him and Ibaka
on this team. Yeah, but Ibaka is not the creator. He's the finisher. He is the guy that's in the lane. He's the spot up, from the wing or from 3. I don't mind putting Kyle Lowry in this score-only role because it just seems to me so effective. Maybe if his three-point shot isn't going down in a given night, but as of late, he's even been very aggressive in attacking the basket, and I'm very positive about tonight's game, despite me being so frustrated watching it at all the officiating and the poor foul calls, Ben, and to still feel this good about it.
Yeah, well, we'll leave the officiating and all that for probably one of the obvious segments, but yeah, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet playing off the ball. I know Fred VanVleet didn't have the greatest efficiency in terms of shooting tonight, but with them playing off the ball in the wings, they got a lot of open threes with Patrick McCaw being able to drive into the defense. I was really surprised about how he can get in the middle of the lane and then be able to quick it out, or those 1-2-3 swings that ended up getting Lowry and VanVleet open threes. And Fred VanVleet 5 of 19 from the field, but 4 of 9 from the 3-point line, which is remarkable efficiency. Kyle Lowry 5 of 10 from the 3-point line. Those guys were knocking down their threes. And Serge Ibaka, before we swing into the segments, 20 points, 10 rebounds tonight. Did deal with foul trouble, but guarding a bigger Cantor, that makes sense, and a few other guys. But the role men for the Toronto Raptors, I know Boucher didn't really have a lot of points tonight, but did have a big impact on the court. With 3 guards out there, and then TD, who is also a great passer, when you're rotating those 4 players, the bigs are just eating inside the lane. The way that they get these dump-offs, no matter who has the ball, they can all catch it, finish, and if we continue to run these 4 point guards in our main rotation, wait till Pascal Siakam and Marc Gasol come back on top of our best finishers. Serge Ibaka was remarkable at finishing those passes tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, Ben. And this is how I expect games against the Celtics should go. I'm surprised that we're only 1-2 against them because they have a smaller team. I would think that we should have our way. Raptors basketball is perfectly equipped to play against the Boston Celtics, and the split tonight, which also surprised me given we didn't have Siakam, we didn't have Marc Gasol, our split in offensive rebounds was crazy. It was 15-7, and at one point I believe it was 10-0. It just tonight they were clicking on all cylinders, and I love this arena. It's obnoxious, it's loud. It's to me, this was a playoff basketball game, and I'm really hoping that we get to face off at some point against the Boston Celtics, just because it is very interesting, and you can play that small ball lineup, which seems to be very efficient and very good for the Toronto Raptors style.
A playoff series against the Boston Celtics, that that's the series that never happened that needed to happen over the past 5 years. And this year, it'd be even more exciting, just where both the teams are at in transition phase with their rosters. That'd be such an exciting playoff series. But Riker, we gotta swing into the segments because there was a lot of exciting plays tonight. Tonight, the spicy Pele of the day, the new animation coming out. Do you have one in mind, Riker?
A spicy Pele. To me, it's those two back-to-back Kyle Lowry threes when there was a mess of a possession in the corner at the outside the perimeter on the wing side, and there was two lobs. It was the exact same possession back to back, and Kyle Lowry just hucks up a shot and a prayer, and both go in, splash. To me, those are the Pelés. But Ben, what do you have?
I have O'Shea, who came into this game and, not scoring plays from O'Shea, but we already brought up the offensive rebounds that he gave that just sparked the Raptors with energy because the Celtics were coming out of one of those Brad Stevens timeouts, and they usually perform really well after they call a timeout. They're a really good out of timeout team. They were on a little run, and this game was a huge game of runs, and their momentum was just crushed by Brissett, who came into the game, shocked the Celtics fans, shocked their players, shocked their team. This guy can, the energy czars off the Toronto Raptors bench. If we continue to pull these guys out of nowhere, there's no one beating us if we get those shots down and we stay healthy.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, but they can't all be the spicy Pele. Some make you say, oh, geez, and tonight I don't know where you want to start it, Ben, because we got to talk about the reffing. We got to talk about different cheap shots, but do you have an oh, geez in mind?
Yeah, honestly, we'll dive straight into the reffing because that's going to be a huge topic of discussion for this game because the Raptors, there was a lot of touchy fouls. There was a couple that were real. The Raptors were playing more aggressive than the Celtics, and that makes sense. They were more ready to win this game than the Celtics were, but a lot of touchy fouls called for the Raptors. OG fouled out. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson fouled out. O'Shea had 4 fouls in 15 minutes. Boucher had three fouls in 16 minutes. Ibaka had 5. It seemed like everyone on the roster, if they did anything, played any sort of defense, it was at risk of getting a stupid foul call.
You know it's bad when Jack will not stop complaining about it during the broadcast. Matty D's just trying to ignore him and change conversation. I mean, Ben, we had plays that Jason Tatum is just driving his way through Kyle Lowry, which is a blocking foul, apparently. And then we have plays that needed to be overturned when it was a clear block. Jaylen Brown goes all over Kyle Lowry. We have Rondae Hollis-Jefferson got fouled out on a block. It was pretty obvious. OG got fouled out on, I don't know what that play was. He just got smushed on between Kyle Lowry and OG, and they gave. It's just these touchy fouls, and the inconsistency tonight, Ben, was crazy. When the game, when we make complaints about the calling, but then we look and see that fouls against either team is about the same, then you can at least chalk it up to say that, okay, bad calls on either side. But when it's very clear that there was bad calls directly called towards the Raptors that weren't called on the other end, then that's when I'm striking an issue with the officiating.
Riker, the Boston Celtics got 36 free throws tonight, the Raptors 17, and it was clear from the eye test that the Toronto Raptors are the more aggressive team in terms of driving into the lane, attacking, being, and usually the team that asserts themselves are the ones that get the beneficiary of the calls, so regardless of their home or away. It was just a really weird sight to see, but the Toronto Raptors still overcame that and got the W against the Celtics. I don't know. This team is, especially where we don't have our main superstar right now, or the guy that people regard as our number one scorer, Pascal Siakam. He's usually the one that gets the calls, and these young guys like Brissett, Boucher, they're going to have to earn their stripes, I guess, but if they keep playing with this energy, I'm sure the calls will swing in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely, Ben. And I do have a gold star tonight for worst performance, DeMarre Carroll Gold Star Award. And tonight it's going to Tony Brothers. We just talked about the officiating. But in particular, are you allowed to hand check in the league? No. Is it always enforced? Not always. But when a foul is called, and I'm talking about Kyle Lowry driving against Jason Tatum, there was an armbar, he had his arm, he was pushing off against Kyle Lowry, a foul was called, no challenge, nothing by the ref. Tony Brothers swoops out of nowhere and calls off a foul and just has the Raptors inbounded. I've rarely in my life seen a foul call overturned with no contest from the coach, and it was one that was blatantly obvious. You're not allowed a hand check, let alone an armbar where you're pushing off on the offensive player. That was ridiculous. ridiculous, absurd. There was some bias or something going on tonight. He's getting my gold star.
Yeah, certainly. I have a low gold star. Daniel Tice for the Boston Celtics. He's been in the league a while. I've seen him play a good bit. I have a few Boston Celtics friends that are a few Boston Celtics fans that are my close friends. So I always hear them talking about Tice. But to watch this man on the court, I don't know. I feel like he's one of those guys you see at the bar that's real scary looking. I don't know. I just really don't like the look of him. He's real kind of pushy and all that. He's getting the gold star just from watching him and the Boston Celtics themselves. Carson Edwards. Do you know who Carson Edwards is on the Celtics, Riker?
Yep.
Yeah, the guy that's splashed threes all over preseason. I don't know if the Celtics gave him any opportunities or whatnot, but Brad Wanamaker, I can't imagine a guy that can splash threes like Carson Edwards could be much worse than Brad Wanamaker for that team. I don't know. I want to see some. I'm not a Celtics fan at all, but he's a guy I'd be excited to see watching as a Toronto Raptors fan. A player that a fan that watches. I can barely speak right now. A guy that barely watches the Celtics. I was hoping to see a bit of Carson Edwards today. Unfortunately, didn't at all.
Well, they also got another young talent, Romeo Langford, who had a bit of a run during the Christmas game, who was a fantastic high school player, college player, and he only played 3 minutes tonight as well. So, different coaching decision from Brad Stevens, is it? Is that their coach? Brad?
Yeah.
Stevens,
Brad Stevens.
Yeah. And didn't work out, but that's because the Raptors tonight, Ben, were the superior team. And like I said, imagine if they didn't have so many turnovers. The Celtics would have 30 less points, and it would have been a 40-point win.
You know what they say? Toronto Raptors doing that in the playoffs. They're exponentially increasing their ability to beat the Celtics as we go forward throughout the season. It's going to happen to all the better teams too, but really encouraging win for the Toronto Raptors. Really exciting watch. You're the best to make it this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. Riker, any last words on this Boston Celtics domination win?
McCaw! That's it, man. Cheers.